Israel Adesanya, a name that once stood for invincibility, dominance, and the epitome of striking excellence in the UFC. The last stylebender's journey has been nothing short of legendary. From the moment he stepped into the octagon, his charisma, skill set, and unorthodox style made him a fan favorite and a champion. But recently, something has changed. Losses have started to creep in, and the once untouchable king seems to be struggling. Is it merely a decline in skills, or is there a deeper mental battle at play? To understand Adesanya's recent downfall, we have to look back at his meteoric rise. From his debut in 2018, Izzy quickly captured the imagination of fight fans with his striking precision, confidence, and unique persona. He was unbeatable, a force of nature in the middleweight division. His rise to the title was one of the fastest in UFC history, like others such as Conor McGregor and Alex Pereira. He became the interim middleweight champion in 2019 when he defeated Kelvin Gastelum in one of the best UFC title fights in history, and went on to become the undisputed king later that year, defeating the champion Robert Whittaker. And just like that, a star was made. Defending his title multiple times, taking on the best the division had to offer, Israel has established himself as one of the greatest middleweights of all time. But with great success comes great expectations and pressure. The first cracks in Adesanya's armor appeared in his move up to light heavyweight to face Jan Blachowicz in 2021. Although he fought valiantly, the weight difference and Blachowicz's wrestling were just too much. Adesanya, who normally fights at 185 pounds, weighed in at 200.5 pounds, while Blachowicz came in at the light heavyweight limit of 205 pounds. On fight night, he was 220 and was noticeably larger, which played a huge part in the fight, especially in clinching and wrestling, costing Adesanya his first loss in MMA as Jan broke his perfect record. Back in his domain at middleweight, Adesanya seemed to regain his footing. His performances were still top tier, no doubt about it, but they lacked the same spark, the same confidence. Something was different. The loss to Jan Blachowicz exposed vulnerabilities that we hadn't seen before. Adesanya, who had been nearly flawless in his career, was now reminded that he was beatable. The fight with Blachowicz wasn't just a physical defeat, it was a mental one. For the first time, Izzy tasted the reality of being outmatched, and that can weigh heavily on a fighter's mind. In his subsequent fights at middleweight, Adesanya's approach became more calculated. He was still technically brilliant and defensively sound, but the aggressive, fearless style that had once defined him was dialed back. The confidence that had fueled his spectacular knockouts and highlight reel moments seemed to wane, replaced by a more methodical, almost hesitant approach. Perhaps the fear of another loss, the pressure of being the last style bender, and the constant spotlight started to take a toll. Maybe, deep down, Adesanya was wrestling with doubts about his own invincibility. And then came Alex Pereira, a rival from his past with a psychological advantage. Adesanya knew Pereira had already beaten him twice in kickboxing. The mental challenge of facing an opponent who had already gotten the best of him amplified the pressure. Izzy was not just fighting Pereira, he was battling his own doubts, his own fears. The mental pressure leading up to their fight was immense. Adesanya knew that Pereira had the power to finish him. He had experienced it firsthand. The knowledge that Pereira could knock him out again added another layer of anxiety. And for a fighter who thrives on confidence and mental fortitude, this psychological burden could be paralyzing. In the octagon, Adesanya fought with precision, but he was also noticeably cautious. There were moments where the old Izzy would have pressed the advantage, but this time he hesitated. The looming threat of Pereira's knockout power was always in the back of his mind. It's as if Adesanya was fighting two battles simultaneously, one against Pereira and one against his own fears. And then, in the final rounds, Pereira landed the shots that Adesanya had dreaded. The referee stepped in, and just like that, Izzy's reign as the middleweight king was over. It was a moment that mirrored their past encounters, a reminder that some opponents are more than just adversaries in the cage. They represent the psychological battles we face within ourselves. Adesanya's post-fight reflections spoke volumes. He acknowledged Pereira's skill, but also hinted at the weight of expectations and the pressure he felt to overcome his past. For the first time, fans saw not just the confident champion, but a human being grappling with doubt, disappointment, and the quest for redemption. After the devastating loss to Alex Pereira, many wondered if Israel Adesanya could ever reclaim his title. The man who had once seemed untouchable now had a clear kryptonite. Pereira wasn't just a rival, he was the fighter who seemed to have Adesanya's number, beating him in both kickboxing and the UFC. The narrative was clear. Adesanya was facing a nemesis who symbolized his deepest fears and vulnerabilities. But Adesanya is not the type to shy away from a challenge. The rematch with Pereira became his sole focus, a mission to not only reclaim his middleweight championship, but to also prove to himself and the world that he could overcome his greatest rival. When the night of the rematch finally arrived, the tension was palpable. Fans knew they were about to witness something special. Adesanya used his footwork to keep Pereira guessing. There was a sense of urgency in Izzy's movements, a desire to take control of the narrative. Then, in a moment that will go down in UFC history, Adesanya found his opening. As Pereira pressed forward, Adesanya set a trap, baiting Pereira into committing. And in an instant, Izzy unleashed a powerful right hand, followed by another. Pereira crumbled to the canvas and Adesanya pounced. The referee stepped in, and just like that, Israel Adesanya had reclaimed his throne. The rematch against Pereira was a defining moment in Israel Adesanya's career. It was a reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, a champion can rise again. After reclaiming his middleweight title in a spectacular fashion against Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya seemed to have silenced the critics and conquered his personal demons. With his confidence restored, fans were eager to see who would challenge the newly recrowned champion. Strickland, known for his controversial and often unfiltered comments, wasted no time in calling out Adesanya. He positioned himself as a fearless challenger, someone who wouldn't be intimidated by Izzy's reputation or achievements. He presented a new psychological and stylistic challenge for Adesanya. Throughout the fight, was struggling to adapt. In a surprising turn of events, Sean Strickland managed to outpoint Adesanya over 5 rounds, securing a unanimous decision victory. This defeat was shocking, not just because Adesanya lost, but because he seemed out of ideas. It was a rare sight to see the former champion appear hesitant, unsure, and almost subdued, to the point that some thought the fight was staged by the bookmakers. The loss raised new questions. Was Adesanya's confidence truly back after Pereira, or was he still grappling with internal battles? Or did he become another Conor McGregor, a guy who achieved everything there is and just had no more passion or drive anymore, as he had nothing more to prove? In the days and weeks following the loss, Adesanya found himself grappling with feelings of inadequacy and frustration. The pressure to perform at the highest level, to be the best, can be a heavy burden. Adesanya began to focus on his mental health as much as his physical training. As he took 11 months off, he knew that in order to reclaim his spot as a champion, he needed to find peace within himself first. The MMA world was shaken once again when Dricus du Plessis defeated Sean Strickland to claim the middleweight championship. The South African fighter, known for his relentless pressure and knockout power, had dethroned the man who had shocked Israel Adesanya. With du Plessis now holding the belt, the stage was set for a confrontation that fans had been anticipating. Their rivalry had been brewing long before du Plessis became champion. The animosity was rooted in personal pride, national identity, and a clash of personalities. Du Plessis had always claimed to be the true African champion, a statement that had struck a nerve with Adesanya. The tension between them was more than just about the title. It was a battle for respect and recognition. During the build-up to their bout, it felt like the old Adesanya was back, as if the 11 months he took off had paid off. But once again, something was just different. He may have appeared calm and composed and a man who rediscovered himself, but something was missing. A spark was gone. And it showed well in a surprising and uncharacteristic moment when Izzy broke down in tears during the UFC 305 press conference. It was evident even more during the fight. Even if he performed admirably, especially against the champion, it was not the same Adesanya. He moved more slowly and had a distracted look. The audience realized that something wasn't right with Adesanya. It seemed as though the fight had already left him before it had begun. His thoughts appeared to be elsewhere, burdened by his recent setbacks. And then came the end. Du Plessis transitioned to Adesanya's back, securing his hooks and looking for a submission. Adesanya made a half-hearted attempt to defend, but his hands dropped, exposing his neck. It was a moment that shocked everyone. Adesanya, the man known for his resilience, turning his back, offering little resistance as du Plessis locked in the rear naked choke. It was as if the fight had drained all his will, all his desire to continue. And unexpectedly, the tap came quickly. Du Plessis remained the champion.
Israel Adesanya now finds himself at a crossroads. His journey, marked by brilliance and bravado, has taken a turn he never anticipated.
In his own words, Adesanya has admitted to feeling the strain. He has spoken openly about battling his own inner demons, about the fear of not living up to his own legend. The anxiety, the self-doubt, the depression, these are battles that are fought in silence, away from the cameras and the bright lights. They are battles that leave scars not visible to the eye, but felt deep within the soul. But all is not lost. The history of combat sports is filled with tales of redemption of fighters who have fallen, only to rise again. Adesanya's story is not yet finished. He has shown time and time again that he possesses the heart of a warrior, the spirit of a true champion. The path to redemption will not be easy, but it is not impossible.